Welcome back to CUE Live here in Palm Springs, California, 2017. I'm Chris Walsh, and I am joined by Marsha Kish, who just accosted me in the halls. No, she didn't. She was very nice. And then it turns out we have all these connections. Who knew?
Who knew?
I'm a Zaption guy, and you're a Zaption pioneer.
Love it.
Love it.
I know, we love Zaption. Very sad the day it went away.
Yes, I know. We can't go there. We can't go there. Anyhow, I'm so glad you stopped to chat.
Yes.
One of the things that makes this conference such an amazing place are all the people that we meet here and the connections that we make that we may have already had and that we reconnect on. So it's very good to reconnect with you. And you just had an amazing session, I heard.
We did. We had standing room only. Well, technically, they were waiting in the line to see if anybody wouldn't show. But yeah, we had close to 100 people show up for our session.
And it was all about blended learning.
It was all about blended learning.
So let's dive into that. First,
let's do it.
Before we do that, tell me a little bit about your background and what you do now.
Sure. So I started out as an elementary teacher. I taught second grade, fifth grade, and I got into the professional development world when I started my own blended learning high school. And when we started the school, we realized that kids really need to have a passion drive their education. So that led into the whole, how do we get this to become personalized? So when that school was kind of frowned upon by the Ohio Department of Ed, we kind of moved forward and got into the professional development world. So now we have schools here in California, we have schools in Orange County, and up in Santa Monica that we work with schools in this area.
So as a blended learning guru, we just
Yes.
gave you that title today, like we
I
crowned
love
you.
it. I
It's
love
awesome.
it.
So as a blended learning guru, why do you think blended is so powerful?
Because we finally get to take, we're no longer teaching to the middle. We actually look at the kid as individuals and we say, hey, this is what you need to know, this is what you need to do, and I'm gonna work on your skills. I'm not gonna worry about everybody else. And we actually find that with working in mini lessons versus teaching the whole group, we get those kids to grasp and understand the concept much better than if we were to teach to the whole classroom. And the level of engagement is off the charts. Like, we truly see these kids wanting to come to school and learn. They feel connected with the teacher versus a teacher standing in front of the room.
So in your mind, blended is clearly tied to personalized learning.
It is the gateway to personalized.
All right. So as a gateway then, and as somebody who just rocked it in a session here at
Heck
CUE,
yeah.
what's a great example of something a place where people can start with blended learning that moves them towards personal?
Sure. So most people call it station rotation. We've coined the phrase phase one with a whole blended learning process where you actually take the whole look at, the big idea of blended learning is working at your own pace, place, and path. But what we did was take it by phase one, which is where students are rotating around the room doing different activities. A mini lesson, digital content, they're doing independent practice, and of course 4 C's. We want them collaborating, communicating, and working together. So we teach teachers how to do that with a timer. Then we remove the timer, which becomes phase two, and add in differentiated instruction. That differentiated instruction becomes almost to that key breaking point of personalized, but we're still not there yet. When we allow kids to pick and choose what they want to learn, bingo, now we're ready, and we're ready to move into personalized learning. But it takes those 3 phases to get there.
So what are some of the mechanisms there? I mean, some people do this in a genius hour. Some people do this in a flex time block where they let kids choose their activities. I mean, what's an example of that student choice piece?
Well, of course, the block scheduling works best because we have more time. But when we allow the students to create their own checklist and own playlist, then we allow them. So time and scheduling becomes an issue because we got to make sure that they have time to work on that. But it becomes part of the everyday classroom. So if a teacher was only given 45 minutes, we figure out a way to make that work. So it's an ongoing. It's not a one day and done. It's a continuation over a unit. And that's really where we see the kids allowing that flexibility to work on the content that they want.
Awesome. So in your session, I know you talked about some specific tools that you like, specifically for blended and personal. What was one of your favorites?
Well, of course, one of my favorites is Newsela. The reason why we like Newsela is because it takes one content article and it allows the students to read it at 5 different levels. So those 5 different levels can then be used to talk about the current events. So what we do is we put this in the classroom, but what happens is the kids read the article, they answer questions, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we developed what's called a Newsela scavenger hunt, where the kids learn how to become producers. So they go through different activities, and they learn how to take one article and produce something. So the end result is sharing out what they've learned to the country and the world. So this little mini scavenger hunt is incorporating 10 technology tools that all relate back to that one Newsela article. And it's just a fun way that kids can actually showcase what they know and what they learned and what they're passionate about.
That's awesome. Any others? Give you one more.
Oh, well, of course. I definitely love front row ed because it's adaptive. And we use that in the classroom because the teacher can say, okay, you need to work on this skill. You go work on math content, geometry. You're over here working on it. And what's really nice is if a kid gets a question wrong, it will say, oh, go talk to Jeff because Jeff just got it right. It reads every question to you. It gives great data. So it's just one easy component to get those teachers engaged with doing blended learning. Moving to the next step.
So those are awesome places for a teacher to start in their own classroom. But as a person who started a whole school,
yes.
I'm wondering if you can speak to sort of the challenges and the opportunities of doing this at a more comprehensive, in a more comprehensive way.
Sure. So when we did the whole school, it's all about scheduling. Our students weren't required to be on site. I give them a number of days, so we didn't have seat time. So they were allowed to come in and go whenever they pleased, and it was all around their passion. So we actually had students who were Irish dancers. We had students who were hockey players, and they were traveling. So by allowing them to come to school on regular days, they were no longer truant for school, and they were able to go and work at their own pace. So we used a huge scheduling piece of that, allowing them flexibility. We also had a lot of teachers on site to help guide them through that. So if they got stuck with a content area, they were able to go and find support and help. So that was one of our big takeaways that we learned with that school, is like really looking at the individual student instead of making the school fit the student. We took the student and made it work for them.
That's awesome. Now, I know as a parent of 3 kids and who's a big fan of blended and personal as well, parents have a lot of hesitation sometimes about taking a leap into this because it feels very different. And oftentimes you end up, as your early adopters are the kids that have, a lot of specialty needs, right? They're amazing at a sports or something else outside school, so they need that flexibility, acting or whatever, right?
Yes.
How do we, or what can we do to help parents feel comfortable about doing this more commonly across schools?
You're exactly right. One of our biggest complaints is that teachers feel like they're getting too much screen time. That's one of the big complaints. Like if I have kids working on this and they're doing this, they're going to be on the screen too long. So what we actually teach our teachers to do is when they have open house night, we run it like a blended learning environment, which is exactly what we just got done presenting in. I didn't stand up with a PowerPoint and teach them how to do it. We actually walked them through it. And the engagement that I had with over 100 people in that room is what we see when we do it with our teacher, our parents, and parent night. Our parents come in, they sit down, they rotate, and they're like, I want my kid to learn like this. I see the benefit, I see how I was engaged, I see that 50 minutes went by, and I was not wondering like how much longer I had to sit here in this chair.
Awesome. Well, you're doing some great stuff.
Yes.
It's so exciting to hear that people here at CUE are getting excited about blended and personalized. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and learn more about what you guys are up to, how would they do that?
Well, of course, you can follow us on all social media channels. I love my Twitter. I don't post what I eat. I actually post good content. So
Nice.
at DSDPD is where you can find us on Twitter. But we have a blog called The Twisted Classroom where you can find all kinds of great resources. Like that scavenger hunt I was just talking about, you can go on and download it and you can have it ready for your classroom on Monday. So we post a lot of stuff because we want teachers out there trying. Because if we get them to try, then they're changing the classroom environment, which changes all, makes it better for everybody.
It's awesome. Thanks so much for joining us
Thanks
here
for
on CUE
having
Live.
me. I love it.
You're a rock star.
Cheers.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Cool. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.